Councilman Randall,
Here.
Councilman Hotel, Bowles,
Present.
Councilman Jones,
Here.
Councilman Williams, Councilman Wallace.
Present.
Can we have, I guess we can have a brief invocation of prayer. Councilman Wallace, do you want to lead us?
Yes. Good night, everybody here for a word of prayer. Lord, gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the best opportunity to be here today, Lord. Just allowing us to continue to move the city forward under your guidance, Lord. I ask that you just allow productive conversation and just things and items that can move the city forward, and just invoke upon us the wisdom to move the city forward. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, this is a workshop scheduled for 5 o'clock. On this, I thought it was supposed to be 2 items, but I will just go with the 1 item, the workshop on needs assessment for roads within the city of Prairie. I think that ties into some of the conversation around the interlocal agreement. If you have that sheet, the original sheet with the interlocal agreement that had the roads listed for Waller County, I remember which we was going to go through and highlight. But I'll let I know Councilman Randall asked to put this on the agenda. We'll start with Councilman Randall, then go to Councilman Wallace.
Well, I asked to put on the agenda because Councilman Wallace wanted a discussion.
So first thing, Commissioner Barnett came up to me, Commissioner's Court, I think about 3 or 4 weeks ago, brought to my attention that right now there was a interlocal agreement that was sent in 2017 by the mayor with a list of streets. However, because he sent it in December, they never accepted it. And so they need all their roads by January 31st. And so because it was such late notice, they never had a chance to approve of it. So having that said, he said that they would have been basically worked on the roads, but because it was turned into, like, there's nothing on the books or the record saying that Prairie wants a specific, any specific streets to be fixed or operated on.
What do you mean turned into it? What do you mean?
I wish I had the document. So Mayor,
Like it's like a work order?
no, so Mayor, he sent in a list of streets. I wish I had the document, but I left it at home. But he sent in a list of streets, probably about 15 streets, around approximately, saying that these are the streets that the city of Prairie View wants to turn in, and this is what we want to collaborate on. But he sent that in December, and so because he sent it in December, Barnett said because he got it such the commissioner got it such last second, that they couldn't work on any of the streets because they didn't have time to approve of them.
So but the deadline is January 31st. So how would that, like, if you get them in December and it's an every year thing, why wouldn't it just roll over? Like,
They said you have to turn it in for that year specifically.
Yeah, the fiscal, maybe it's a fiscal calendar, not the.
because it says January 31st on it.
It was fiscal, so they're saying that you have to turn in for that year specifically was put on the book, but it didn't roll over.
So the question, I guess, if Councilman Wallace, if we can, since it's a workshop, if you can write this down, we need to find out. So that means the Waller County will not provide any services for the city of Prairie View for this fiscal year because we didn't turn in the sheet, even though they received our fair share of tax dollars. That's the first question. They said if we didn't turn in the sheet, am I hearing that correct? If we didn't turn in the sheet, we're not in their cycle of street repairs, but they've collected their fair share of tax dollars from us. I mean, is that we need to find out if that's a true.
And I can, once I gotta get the document from my place, But once I get it, I can have city secretary scan that and send it to y'all, so that y'all can see exactly what the mayor sent in as well.
Alright, and so are we also able to, so we used to resubmit the streets now?
I think
Would it be possible?
from what Barnett was saying, I think we'll be able to still resubmit it. It just won't be able to be worked on to 2020.
So then I changed the percentage.
Correct.
How certain are you about that?
I would say 90%. I still got to email him to get it in writing now.
Do we have to go through this?
I mean, him or county judge. But the main point that he wanted to articulate was that yes, there were streets sent in at an earlier time in 2017, December, but the county never accepted it because
December 2017?
in 2017.
So what happened to 18 and 19?
Nothing was
So
ever.
they still, so, I guess my question is, why do we have to, if we submitted it and it was quote unquote late, why do we have to resubmit the same documents for 2018 and 2019? He should have just resubmitted it, because if it has to, so I guess what I'm understanding is, the process is, we submit it to them, they bring it to the commissioners board, they vote upon it in the general meeting or throughout the fiscal year.
Correct.
So if we submitted it and he said, oh, we got it late in December, why wouldn't he resubmit the same list of roads for 2018 and 2019? I guess
And also, I'm not sure.
which isn't a question for you.
Yeah, I know.
It's a question of us.
And I wonder how factual it is about 2017, because 2017, that's when, it was first brought up. But then the conversation was that the mayor, mayors was in disagreement upon, they're supposed to be fighting it, because you remember it took us so long for us to even get
Right.
into local agreement. And then 2018, that's when I got the interlocal agreement.
So
We
maybe
voted.
2018.
No, it was December 2017.
You saw the form and that's what.
Yeah, so yeah, he gave me the actual interlocal agreement and gave me the email in which the mayor said this is the road that the city of Prairie wanted to work on, and it was labeled 2017 for December.
So, something is,
Something like
it shouldn't, so, and granted, these are all questions for him, but when I say him, I mean the commissioner, because it's not, I mean, for me, it's not really adding up, because there are funds allocated for road and bridge and interlocal agreements. So even if we missed it, first of all, I don't know what deadline there could be, because if we're in this interlocal agreement and a road goes out tomorrow that's in the interlocal agreement, we don't have to wait a year to submit a repair for that road.
And in 2017, we didn't even submit the interlocal agreement. So we didn't agree on it. We didn't submit the interlocal agreement to 2018.
Who did it?
But if you just
Mayor
base
said
it off,
something.
if you just base it off of of the information that he's saying he has an interlocal agreement in this list of roads in 2017, that's what the commission told Councilman Wallace. So even if whether that's factual or not, right now, my issue is, it doesn't matter if there's an interlocal agreement in place, it doesn't matter when you got the request for the roads. You know, like, there should be funds already allocated, because that shouldn't be something that you have to bring back to Commissioner's Court, because it's already budgeted, you just put in a work order.
Yeah, no, so that definitely, and I'll have to email him and get those documents scanned to y'all, so y'all can see, what the written response that was given to me, at the Commissioner's Court. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'm 99.5% sure that if whatever happened in terms of we can't get the streets turned in from before, that if we get the streets, chosen now, we can send it in for the next fiscal year. And that's my understanding.
That brings us to the purpose of this meeting, right?
Right.
When is the fiscal year? Because
September 1. Now, ours is, now the question you asked, and I'm assuming you was asking, when is Waller County's fiscal year?
Yes.
And I would assume it'd be the same, September 1.
But because on the document, it's asked you to turn it in by January 31st. So I don't see where is the issue with you turning in a document in December. It has nothing to do with the fiscal year because January 31st is the deadline. And it still does not make sense because Ms. Williams had tried several times in 2017 to get this interlocal agreement. We didn't get the interlocal agreement. We got it late December. But when we talked about it in December, it rolled over. We asked for streets to be submitted, but it was never signed. In 2018, we brought it back, and then same thing. So I'm not understanding what the timeline is. I guess that would be for you to reach out, or want us to reach out to either the county judge or commissioner board.
I can reach out to them and get some written conversation, so there's a dialogue to follow up on.
So the purpose of this meeting was needs assessment for roads within the city of Prairie View. Now, we're talking about tying in the streets in Waller County because this kind of helps with the interlocal agreement. But where do we want to go, and what is our direction as far as the needs assessment? Are we allocating money? Are we allocating time? Do we know how many streets it is? And then we should go through a process like Rule 4. There should be on a shelf a needs assessment based upon every road in the city of Prairie View that goes through a series of 1, 2, 3, and 4 that lists most damage and that process. And then in 2010, 2009, after the bond, all streets was repaid. Now, there were some issues with that, but then it was done. The question is since then, which is 10 years, there is no upkeep. And so that's the question we all have that is prompting us to have to deal with the roads. Because it's not just county roads. I was driving on Owens Road. There's a pothole like big as a tire. Like it messed up my whole, and it's just subtle, and then it just dips. And I'm like, what's going on? Because they fixed. I don't know. There's some parts of roads that are fixed, and some parts of roads that is not fixed. And so I don't know the issue to it. But we want to definitely have the questions, and then kind of the direction in which you have been researching. Where do you want to go with this as far as, are we allocating resources, time? Do we have a time frame to be able to come up with this? Are we going to do a needs assessment, long-term, short-term? Are we going to put money behind it? What's direction?
Okay, so I have two questions. First question is, this first time that City of Prairie View has done an interlocal agreement in recent times?
No.
No, there's always been.
There's always been one except for with the current mayor.
Okay, so with that, whenever the streets were chosen, what was the process in which those streets were chosen in the past?
It's always been the same streets, and it's always been, again, we had a better relationship with the county judge, county engineer, and the county, I would say somewhat with the county commissioner in reference to, so if they're working on a street, so either we would have to buy materials, we wouldn't have to do labor. So if they're working on a county road like Owens Road, yes, with the city of Prairie View, we would have to buy the materials for them to finish the street if it was in the city of Prairie View, like the bump I'm talking about. Because we don't have a crew that can go out and fix all the streets. And so we would look at Waller County's street maintenance crew when they come into precinct 3 and say, hey, they're working on Owens Road. We identify there's 3 projects on Owens Road that we need to identify, and we would get the resources to do that. Now, I will say based upon some of the previous leadership, it hasn't been as documented and cut and dry, but that's the process. And so because of new leadership, we're now having to identify every step of the process.
Yeah, so when this came up the first time, I don't remember what year it was, but when I brought this up, in my mind, so I can paint the picture of how I envision it going in my mind. There needs to be an audit, just like we would do finances or we do budgeting. We need to go, well, not us per se, but our engineer, somebody we allocate to do so, needs to drive down every road. First, we need a map of the roads. We need a map of just the roadways, right? And so then, this engineer needs to drive down every road, like inventory each road. Then, once he's driven down every road and taking pictures and identifying every road in the city, then he starts identifying like worst condition to best condition. And then from there, we take those roads and we identify them on the map, and from there we implement a 5-year plan. We do a cost analysis of what it will cost to fix the roads, and then we allocate. We go, because in 5 years the interlocal agreement will be over with the county unless something changes between now and then. So the city will be carrying the burden on those right, on those repairs. So we have to start planning for that right now. And so we look at, say if there's 30 roads, then we want to do 6 roads a year, 5-year plan. And then by the time we get to year 5, it'll be time to go back and upkeep. That's the problem has always been upkeep and follow through. We'll go, I use the ditches as an example, where we spent $40,000 and $50,000 to go through and tread ditches and open culverts and all of that. But then we never put in a plan to follow through to keep going through and making sure that. So now it's time to do that again, because now we're seeing the rise in the flooding and all of those things again. And so we have to have that plan that's continued, and it shouldn't have to be something that has to come to council every time. So it's something that's in place, so it's something that's just done.
So with the streets, me and Joan went around the city. We identified a couple streets, but some of them had different issues. Whether it needed new paving, some of them need to be widened, some of them potholes. So do you specify these things within interlocal agreement?
No, because we're talking about 2 different things. We're talking about city streets versus what we want Waller County to pay, which is two separate conversations, but our plan is gonna drive both. We need to sit here and say, on the streets, what are all the streets in Prairie, and identify those. And either we have Public Works do the needs assessment, measure the whole street, what is the width, and if it's 8 and it's supposed to be 12 because they didn't cut, like, when the grass grow over, there's concrete there. So we need to figure out in our needs assessment, maybe we get Public Works, because we already pay for them, to do the basic needs assessment. Then we have an engineer come in and check their work, which would be cost effective versus having an engineer do it at the end. Real quick, and then Councilman Jones. I just found the interlocal agreement from Waller County in 2005. All right, in this, and that I'll pass to you, it had a percentage of ad valorem taxes, how much was prorated, and what was our total. In our conversation, if we're looping the interlocal agreement, we still need to get our fair share of taxes that we send to Waller County. And so that may call for Councilman Wallace to have a conversation with the county engineer to make sure that we're getting our fair share. Like, they have done enough work on our county streets that are in the city of Prairie View to where they're just like, well, you didn't get nothing, then you get 0. We want to know how much money have they spent in the city of Prairie View. That's in here, and I'll get everybody a copy. The second thing is in here list some streets. This is part of, the back and forth that we've had in some of the leadership, both county leadership, which is a different county judge, but it lists tier 1 roads. Prairie View, Old Houston Highway, Cochran Road, Owens Road, Wyatt Chapel, and Brooks Road. Those are the 5 roads they have identified as tier 1 roads in the city of Prairie View for Waller County. So
Tier 1 being the best?
yes, tier 1 or most traffic.
Okay.
And then you go into, then they have, schedule of charges. So again, to have an engineer to do a dump truck, to do some of these things that we're asking them to do, there's a charge. But remember, they have money from us, so they kind of like take it out the account, which is why we would say we would budget it out of, for the resources and materials, and they would use that for labor.
Right.
Can we get a copy?
And so, and that's important, because if there's this pot that we've been paying into, right, just because the interlocal agreement schedule ends, our pot shouldn't disappear.
This is
Because our tax dollars are still linked to this pot, if that makes sense. So I guess that's part of the question. And I think,
So if we had a map like this, so this is even this, and I don't know if this is a broader conversation between planning and zoning, public works, or if this is when we start talking about roads, right? So we need to have, like, so there's this map, this aerial map. This is the map that was given to us when they were talking about putting the signs off of 1098, no, Owens Road the other way, going towards the stadium. Remember when we put the signs up? So the question is, we need a map that we label our tier 1 streets. We do. And they may be the ones that Waller County is labeled, but then there may be some other ones that have heavy traffic. Like, again, you know, that says Alta Vista may increase, or let's do the ones that currently exist. So whatever streets we drive, but that's already gonna do it, but what are the side streets, right? Like side streets that aren't main streets to us, but they have a lot of traffic. Like this, to me, the smallest street that gets a lot of traffic that people don't know about is the street right by the city's property. Going to Clark Street and Eccles, right? And so if we adopt, say it's a 50 streets, the first 5 are tier 1, there's another 10 that may be tier 2 or A, B, and C or whatever. That's kind of what we want to figure out. What do we want in a needs assessment? What do we want to know? What are the inputs or the questions we want to know to get the outputs we need to be able to make the best decisions? Councilman.
So I heard that it was talking about like a long-term, short-term. I'm glad JJ is here. So, what's up? So how much money do we have right now to fix out the street for the budget cycle? And why,
how much is it? Yeah. So that twofold question, how much do we allocate every year towards road? Well, I guess that's road and the other stuff.
it's like 150, right?
Well, let's look at the current year budget.
And then on top of that,
Okay, basically, street maintenance is primarily based on the sales tax, the street maintenance sales tax.
0.25, right? Was it 0.025 or what is?
No,
just give me the
it's 0.02, I can tell you. Budget-wise, this current year, we have budgeted in street maintenance $115,000.
So then you said, I'm sorry, that's road repairs, 115,000?
We have $115,000 in the street maintenance line,
Street maintenance, so that.
which includes Everything
That's bushes.
related to streets, trees,
Trees, all
ditches, whatever we put in that category.
Right, so that's 115,000.
How much do we have now?
What did you say?
115,000. So I think when we develop this plan, that we need to be, more intentional about how we allocate this 115,000.
Yep.
Especially looking into the 5 years from now. You know, cause trees don't need to be cut every year. Ditches may not need to be.
Yeah.
What are the
So
categories?
trees should be very minimal. The thing that you guys have to look at with trees is this right here. You have to establish what is the city gonna be responsible for as far as a tree goes. The
Right.
tree normally has to be in the street thoroughfare. If the tree is on the trunk of the tree is on a homeowner's property, it's the homeowner's responsibility
Right.
to maintain that tree so as if you have a 10-foot clearance for the limbs, then that's the homeowner's responsibility, and that falls under city code violation,
You're right.
okay? Now, if that tree is in your right-of-way, then it's the city's responsibility,
Right.
as far as maintaining whatever your,
Trunk of the tree.
the trunk of the tree is what's the deciding factor.
Right.
All right, so Ginger, how much we have now?
What, left over?
Yeah.
I can tell you right now.
And while you look for that,
Got it right here?
what you got?
Go ahead. Mhm.
So we got about 18 more minutes, 20. So does anybody have, while JJ's looking for that, do we have anything else? What do we want to be our outcomes from?
We about to come up with a plan. So you said that we need, our assessment question, like what we wanna label. I think the first question that we need to answer to move forward is who do we want to do our assessment? You said public works, but,
I said they would start it. They would be able to give us a baseline because they know all the streets and we already pay them. And then once we get a basic assessment from them, then we can go to an engineer, someone who we have to pay more to, but can give us the more detail.
what was the basic assessment?
I think first we need a map.
So this is,
We have a map, plan is on.
Plan is on it, just
updated,
finish that
they
map.
Yeah,
But we need one,
it has the city street.
I'm saying we need one specifically for just with the streets. The planning and zoning is gonna have all of the, like,
I just have a color dynamic, so you can take you can easily remove the color dynamics away from it.
and you seen the new map?
They just finished
You
it.
got about 90,000.
You'll have it in your box tomorrow.
So,
You have about 90,000.
so what happens to the
Budget-wise.
money that we don't use? Does it roll?
No, it just, it doesn't roll over. What it does is, all of your money,
Goes back.
it just stays, it's in your reserve, which goes forward towards next year. See, you look at all your money as a whole. Whatever money is not spent, it becomes reserved for next year. All right, when you're budgeting, then you can budget your operating revenue for that year, and you can also dip into the reserve. Most cities try not to go into the reserve.
Right, but, so we're behind in our road maintenance,
I
right?
understand, right?
So-
Mhm.
So we look at.
It's the old one?
Yeah, but one's 2016,
If we look at the money that
2005.
we allocated for road maintenance, say over the last 3 years, I know we haven't spent 115.
No, we haven't.
Maybe two the same.
So, those funds, put it back in the general fund and then.
They're in the, that's right.
Look
Mhm.
at the date.
So, is it possible to identify those funds in general fund?
I'm gonna give it to you right now. I'm looking at your, bank account for street maintenance. You got $53,000. So you,
I'm sorry. say it again.
$53,000. So in essence, the 90 that I told you about,
Plus 53.
that's new money. You got 53 in there now. So actually, you could go into that 53,000 reserve if you wanted to now.
That's, that 53 that's reserved, that's 53 that strictly came from
Street maintenance.
street maintenance in the past.
See, and that's the way we're able to maintain the integrity of those funds, because we have separate bank accounts for the sales tax funds, which street maintenance is one of them.
Right. And that's accumulated for over how many years, you know?
Well, that's been accumulated since we've had from inception.
53,000.
When we started the street maintenance, when it was enacted, 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
What's left in the account right now is $53,883.
Okay, so almost 54. And so we can extract that and combine that with the 90,000.
Right, exactly.
So combine, what are the exact numbers?
90,000 and
Plus
53.
54, so you're talking about 144,000.
That's
Now,
currently
keep in
right.
mind, what you're doing now is that when you go into the 54, you're going into your reserve.
Right, but we're saying that, the other question, I mean, we're in the month of May, get ready to go into June.
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 more months left, 2 or 3 months left before our cycle starts over, this September 1.
Right.
So.
No, the cycle starts October 1st. The fiscal year ends September 30th.
So so it's September 30th
Right,
and starts October 1.
right.
So then, that's what,
Well,
4 months.
you got 4, right. Now, the figures I'm giving you right now is as of February. So, as of February, what you have, and I've incorporated, the extra months in that 90,000, from March to,
When you say
September
you
30th.
incorporated, you just giving like an
yes, what I'm
estimate?
giving you now, is
Projection.
as of today, basically, you have 90,000 plus the other 54,000 in the reserve.
Right, and so that's a projection off what we spent throughout the fiscal period?
Well, that's based on what you have left. It's
No,
not
I'm
a
saying
projection. That's what you have left available to you. What I'm saying is, what you have available to you, if y'all want to make a decision for the next, for this fiscal period, you basically have $144,000 to work with.
Yes, sir. So we could, a possible solution. So so we have the streets. The first thing that we said that we needed is that we need a map of the streets. I'll make sure that's in everyone's box, tomorrow. I'm getting it from Ms. Christina. The second thing was,
Then identify the roads.
Oh.
Using the public works to identify the roads is the second thing.
all right, so, I guess I'll be one of those.
I'll
Alright, good. So first thing is, we got the road, we got the road map. The second thing is getting public works to identify the roads.
Alright, so what exactly, so we talked about like length and width, but we need to get specific instructions to public works.
So they just need to survey the road. So Owens Road, these issues, right?
So survey the roads.
Right, so just surveying.
Can I ask y'all one question? All right, the last strategic